today is all about focused on healing, personal expression, and entrepreneurship. As always, I'm grateful for you to be here. Please don't forget, like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Here we go. Lidice Cohen, or you could call her Lee Cohen, and I'm going to introduce you to her in just a moment. I'm really excited. Today is all about focused on healing, personal expression, and entrepreneurship. Lidice, or Lee Cohen, is an art therapist, a PhD candidate, researcher, and entrepreneur in private practice therapy. We're going to be taking a look at expressionbylee.com, looking for participants for a study using virtual reality for art making therapy. I am super excited to see where this conversation goes today with Lidice, but before I introduce you to her, I have a public service announcement. Now, believe it or not, this is more difficult for me to share than my last video where I talked about my history of child abuse and drug abuse. This was 100% my fault for being overly enthusiastic about sharing my story. I made a mistake and it cost me. So I'm sharing this short story before we get into our talk with Lidice because I don't want any of you to fall victim to scammers on Instagram like I did. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So you see here, these profiles there are dozens of them. I have been working on building my Instagram following since 2017, and I put a lot of work into it. I wanted my story to reach as many people as possible. So after getting dozens of these types of messages, I decided to try this a couple of times. But don't fall for it like me. Fortunately, I'll be able to recover my losses, but I'm not going to stay quiet about this. Yet, it is embarrassing, and I did this and things got out of hand. But if I'm too embarrassed to warn others, these scammers like this will keep taking from good people. So don't fall for it. The details are still being investigated, so I don't want to get into all the details, but let me just say a victim is only a victim as long as they stay silent. In this world we live in today, especially now in light of all this diddler stuff that is coming out, I plead with every victim here today listening to this video, do not stay silent. We are human. We make mistakes. It's part of life. It's what we do, what we know that can make a difference for the betterment of others. Cockroaches don't hide in the light. So shed light on those who want to do harm to others. There's no shame in that. Now on to bigger and better things. And it is my honor today to introduce Lidice Cohen on Beth Talks today. She has something to share here that is cutting edge, and this is something that is not well known. And it's something that we can all benefit from, especially for those who have been a victim of a crime or a tragedy, or even just having a difficult time with challenges in your life. Addiction, depression, anxiety, and anything that you're having a difficult time dealing with, stay with us to the end as well. I have an exciting announcement to make. And now for our special guest, I'm going to turn things over to you. Lidice, thank you so much for being here with us today, taking your time to talk with us today about what you do. And I find the thought of using virtual reality for art making a fascinating way to bring together mental health therapy and technology. Two things that I really love. So Lidice, I would like to turn things over to you for now. Can you just share a little bit about your background and what inspired you to start expressionbylee.com.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's an honor for me to be here. Um, what inspired me to start Expression by Lee was that I grew up utilizing art making, and I was encouraged to use the arts. It's because I saw the power behind it. Even though I was an exhibiting artist and I exhibited in Italy, I exhibited in New York and all that stuff, my paintings, I still found that when I was struggling with something, um, creating art released a lot of tension and it helped me defog my brain. And so as time went on, I realized that the power behind the arts. So I went and I got a master's in art therapy. And once I got my master's in art therapy, um, I realized that there's power behind the arts and it's doing art with a purpose. So I created Expression by Lee before I became an art therapist, and I was using art as therapy. And doing art as therapy drew me to become an art therapist. The reason, unfortunately, that I started Expression by Lee was because I was working for people that were giving me rubber checks. And so I felt a need to be empowered. And I felt a need to be more in control of who I work with and who I don't want to work with. So I decided that I didn't want a job, I wanted a career. And I wanted a career where I'm empowered, where I can choose who I work with and who I don't work with. And not just take a client or take a job because I'm desperately needing the money, but because I want to give a service, and I want to give a service to people that I know will benefit. And I would much rather be contracted for a hospice agency or a hospital or a clinic where I know that I'm getting paid, but I will be able to help others and not worry about whether I'm going to be able to meet my needs, because I need to eat so that I can work, you know?
Yeah.
So that's where I started. And
Yeah.
that's why I started Expression by Lee, to be empowered. So not like a lot of people, oh, I just want to make a ton of money. No, I just wanted to be empowered so I may serve.
I am smiling right now because I could not have said it any better. That is the main reason why I started on this entrepreneurship path myself, because I I was tired of, working for someone else's dream or some other program that I wasn't fully in control of, and I wanted a way to help others through my own expression. So I love that you found your passion and you're using that, not only to support yourself, but to support others. And I think in today's world, that's more important than anything else, is your passion. And while some of us might have to work for a paycheck temporarily, we could still work in the background on our passion and eventually move towards that goal. But back to the art therapy, because this is a concept that's not really well known, and people don't really fully understand the concept of it yet because it's kind of new. What role does art and personal expression play in the healing process for your clients? And how is art therapy different than regular therapy?
Well, that's a very good question, right? Because a lot of people confuse me as an art teacher, and art therapy is really a form of psychotherapy that uses creative expression through various forms, right? So there's different expressive arts. There's music therapy, there's dance movement therapy, there's drama therapy, there's art therapy, there's poetry therapy. There's a lot of, in the expressive arts, there's a lot of different branches. Let's say that the tree is the expressive therapies, and there's a lot of branches. And all of these, believe it or not, are nonverbal, most of them, right? Except for the poetry part, it's mostly nonverbal. Oh, and there's also play therapy. And play therapy is a big one for um, people that are traumatized, right? People that are going through a really hard trauma. Play therapy is the big one in there. But let me explain to you in an easy way, because I'm very visual, because the art therapy explores emotions and processes trauma and promotes mental health well-being, and it combines, right, the therapeutic qualities of creating art with psychology, right? So I'm going to share my screen so that, because I'm so visual, I think it's easier, right? Um, a lot of people think that art therapist is just for artists. And I've gotten a lot of clients that come to me telling me that they're artists, and the reason why they searched for me is because they're artists and I'm an art therapist. And no, art therapy is not just for artists, it's actually for everyone, from children to late stages of our lives, right? And so um art therapy, this is the best way for me to explain what art therapy is. So we have artist therapy. Artist therapy is literally the process of creating art. When you're drawing, when you're writing, when you're listening to music and creating something, even that coloring book for adults, that's not art therapy, that's art as therapy. And then we have art psychotherapy. Art psychotherapy is literally taking what you created in the art creating process and processing it. Why did you do this? What do you see different? It changes your perception. It helps you and what's wonderful about the art as therapy part is that it brings down the barriers and it allows you to speak. So you're just speaking and you're processing. And the best part also with art therapy is that we don't look at your skills. We're looking at the process, not the product. That's what's important for us. And once you take artist therapy and art psychotherapy and you put it together, that's what's art therapy. You can't have artist therapy and call it art therapy. It has to be both of them combined in order for you to call it art therapy. And that's what I wanted to really show people what it meant, because the approach can help process your feelings, things that are difficult, and it's a nonverbal outlet for self-expression. Because sometimes we're going through something, or the trauma was so bad that the Broca's area of your brain, which is the part for language, it goes offline. And it's a way to protect you. So you don't have the words for it. You just know that you're going through this difficult situation and you don't have the words for it. And that's okay, because the art may speak for you and it's gentle, right? Because we don't want to re-traumatize anyone. So that's why I'm so passionate about art therapy. And that's why I want to help people that actually don't even want to do therapy. The difference between verbal therapy that you asked me and art therapy is that verbal therapy is not bad if that's what you want to do, is and you have the words for it. And even if you don't have the words for it, the therapist can help you with that process. In art therapy, we're using both sides of our brain. We're using our creative side and our cognitive side, and we're sharing, because you're going to do art and you're going to also talk about it as much as you can. And so an art therapist is trained to look at the art and do what we call art diagnoses. And we see that we do that when we have like 4 or 5 pieces of work, that we look for patterns, and then we help you see things in a different way. And what I love, and me as an art therapist, is that I take you by the hand and I'm going through the journey with you, because I go into the art with you and I'm looking at it with you and I'm watching you when you're creating the art. So I'm also looking at your body language, and I'm allowing you to be able to express yourself in a non-judgmental environment because art makes it safe. Our first language was making noise and scribbling. So it's easy to just remind you who you were and help you um, see your identity, learn about who you are, and empower you to move forward because we have no control of how we started life and things that happen to us. But once you go into therapy and you're learning about yourself and you're healing, then you're empowered to be able to move forward in a and end your life happier, is what I say. I have no control of how I started life, but I do have control from here forward. And I want everyone that I work with to have control from here forward.
And I love that because I used to be very afraid of therapy. And I've talked about this before. I would make therapy appointments a dozen times and cancel every time. But once I started actually participating in therapy, it was the greatest thing ever. And because it just helps you get things off your chest and express yourself. But I love the concept of art therapy because sometimes words can make you very defensive, even if they're your own words. And when someone asks you to express how you feel about XYZ or put into words your emotions, it can stir up all those emotions and your brain just freezes and you just don't have the words to express it. And then you get agitated and irritated and defensive and you shut down and you don't want to participate at that point. And I've seen this, I have an addiction in the past. I have lots of family members that struggle with addiction. And I'm just mentioning that because that's where I have experience. But it makes it really difficult to put into words, why are you doing the things you're doing? Why are you accepting XYZ? Why are you making this choice and not that choice? And an addict doesn't know why they're doing the things they're doing. It's an automatic process that they learned and picked up somewhere in their life. So art can help you kind of draw out those expressions and help you create a vision of what you're feeling without having to come up with the words and feeling all that shame and guilt like the event is happening all over again. And then these emotions just bubble up. So I love this concept, and that's why I wanted to have you on my show, because therapy is something that we all can benefit from. But things like this can kind of break down the walls with people that are afraid to really sit on a couch and talk about their feelings. This gives them an alternative way to process things, and I love that.
Yes, and it's the power of creativity, right? That elicits that emotional resilience. You know, you're very much into resilience, right? And so this helps you with your emotional resilience, self-awareness, and personal healing, right? You want to have that healing process. And what art therapy does, it helps you be able to see how resilient you are, be able to see, because there's a lot of negative self-talk. You were talking about the addiction and not realizing why you're doing things. And the voice that you hear the most is your own voice. And there's a lot of negative self-talk that was probably started with someone negatively talking to you in a tone that belittled you. And so you go into this maladaptive behavior of using drugs or using alcohol, using whatever to cope with what's going on. So, and that's a process that art can help as well.
And I find it interesting. And now, if I had a VR headset, I would totally jump on this opportunity that you are doing a research study on implementing your art therapy through virtual reality. And a lot of people in today's world are like freaking out, scared about technology and the development of AI. And this is a spin that shows an example of what good purposes AI and technology can serve going forward in the future. So I know you're looking for volunteers for this program and this study. Can you tell a little bit more about what you're looking for and what this study entails?
Yeah, so what I'm looking for are young adults between 25 and no, between 20 and 35 that have their own VR headsets. So they're already into the gaming thing. They're already using their VRs or have a VR and they would like to use it some more. And so there's this application for the Oculus that's called Multi-Brush. And so Multi-Brush is really fascinating for me, right? So what this study is to be able to see how we can do group art making in a virtual space. So this study is for everyone in the globe, as long as they can speak English, and I can speak to them. What they would do is they would go in with their own avatar. So I'm going to show you my avatar. Okay. So this is my avatar.
Nice.
This is me waving, and you can see me waving back to myself. And everyone who has an Oculus will have an avatar. And so what Multi-Brush does is that we would meet in a virtual space, everyone with their avatar. The difference is the avatar and multi-space is only your torso, the top part of you. And the bottom part would have your name. And this is two individuals that are doing art together. And my study is to be able to see if we can do art therapy virtually in a space, in a group setting with an art therapist. And I already had two groups that did it. And I'm just looking for more participants for another art therapist who has a VR headset. And the idea is to see if this multi-brush would be something favorable for doing art therapy in a group setting with young adults. And in the group, what happens is that in one of the sessions, they actually get to do art together collaboratively. You get to create art that is 360 degrees. I mean, you get to do art where usually when we're using traditional art materials, I ask the client, oh, so if you can walk into this art piece, what would it be like? How would you feel? Here in virtual reality, we would take the art that you created, make it life-size, and you walk in, but you're going to walk in with your clients. So they're not in the virtual world by themselves, you're with them. And they actually get to see things in a different perspective. And because it's virtual reality, it's enjoyable. They don't feel like they're having art therapy, and they get to process their emotions. We get to ask them questions. As they're working, they're also fascinated with the process. And it's so far, the data that I've collected, it's everyone has enjoyed it, from the therapist to the participants. So I see that is something very favorable. The other study that I did was with adolescents, and I did a comparison between traditional art materials and virtual reality art making tools. And the virtual reality art making tools actually won the cake, especially when you're working with adolescents, because my goal is that we don't want that once you're in therapy and you just drop out. You drop out because you feel that you've had enough, you're tired of talking, you feel like you're repeating yourself, or the therapist somehow lost you in the process. The reason why I'm doing research using virtual reality is because I feel that we have to go with the flow. If technology is in and the majority of people are in it, you know that during COVID, there was a high percentage of people that were actually using technology and using virtual reality in order to, because they were alone, we were in quarantine. And a lot of them stayed using technology. And I think it's only fair that if we have clients that their world is gaming, their world is virtual reality, we should meet them there. If their world is social media, we should meet them there so that we can help them in their world.
I love that because we have a whole new generation coming up behind us, and they like things a lot different than we liked things. So it just makes sense to come to them where they feel more comfortable. And I think it's amazing. I'm fascinated by this process. So I hope that people reach out to you after this. I hope it gets more exposure because this is a really, um, I think, inspiring process that you've come up with here. So I love that. But I also want to recognize that you are a woman who started your own business. You're an entrepreneur, and I know that that's not easy. Um, what advice do you have for women who, or men who want to pursue entrepreneurship but feel overwhelmed by the process?
Yes, and it's very overwhelming, right? Because then you see yourself that you don't, that where your income fluctuates. You don't have that steady same amount of income that you can budget. So I would recommend, if you're going to go and do and have your own business and be an entrepreneur, you need an accountant and you need a lawyer, because without that, you need someone that can guide you. You need someone that, especially me as an artist, I need an accountant, and I have one. And I'm so happy to have one because I want to focus on working with my clients, and I don't want to focus on all the other stuff that will just frazzle me. So having an accountant is very important. Having a system for invoicing that it works on its own. You just click and you put it and you send it, and you have a lawyer that can make sure that you have all your ends are met, your I's are dotted, your T's are crossed, and get a mentor. Follow somebody that has succeeded and learn from someone, and go and especially in YouTube, look at other people that have done their business. Get advice from someone who is succeeding, not just a person that you like because they're doing what you like to do. Someone that is succeeding, someone that's willing to give you that advice, that's willing to take you by the hand and say, wait, no, don't do it this way. From my experience, you should do it that way. And try everything. I believe that every time I fell, I have knees to get back up. And the worst thing you can do is fall and stay down. Don't stay down, because you want to succeed and you want to be able to inspire someone else and let them know that they can also make it.
Yeah, and money aside, inspiration is highly valuable to yourself as much as you want to inspire others. And you have to put together a team of support because you have a vision, you have a goal for your business and what you want to focus on. So that's solid advice. Having an accountant, and a lawyer, and all these other pieces that so you could concentrate on what you want to build and have your support team around you that has the experience and has room for growth that you can learn from. That's why I loved meeting people on LinkedIn like you, because there's a lot of people that have a lot of successful businesses. There's a lot of knowledge online, especially LinkedIn. So make friends, find your team, and build your tribe, right?
Yeah. And not only that, also someone that can do your marketing for you, because you don't have time, right? So
Right.
you need someone that you trust that can do the marketing for you, that's looking for your best interest, that's willing to hear you and understand where you're from, right? Where you're going and what your vision is, so that you can focus on what you love to do, so that you have, so when you wake up in the morning, you're anxious and you're looking forward to doing something, that you're not dragging your feet because, oh Lord, I have to get up. Oh my gosh. No, but oh, I'm excited. I have my team, or my marketing person is going to meet with me, is going to give me ideas and stuff like that. You don't you want to do this with a team. You really can't do it by yourself.
Well, you fell right into my lap because resilient stars can help you keep your marketing focused on your goals and your inspiration and help keep your message consistent to your brand. So, I do want to make mention as a good opportunity. Resilient Stars Marketing, my company, I have started doing some really fun 30-minute training webinars that anybody that has just started their business and looking to put together a marketing plan, come to my webinar, learn the basics. We have fun, we give away gifts, and I'll be doing another one later on in the month of October. So be looking out for those announcements. We have a little bit of fun. But back to you. I'm curious what your future vision looks like for your company. Where do you see your company going, say, 2, 3 years from now?
Well, I see me doing more research, but I see my company, um, which is a dream that I've always had, is to have, it's like, you know, those where you would go to the supermarket and find that big truck that for you to donate blood. Have a mobile studio where we can go out to the community and actually do the art therapy, and in that space be able to have multiple VRs in order to have a VR session. If they don't have their VR, I would have a VR for me and one for the client, and be able to have the session if they don't have a VR headset. I've always dreamt of having a mobile expression by Lee. So I look forward to having that, doing more studies so that I can create a protocol on how to use virtual reality in art therapy where we don't re-traumatize a client, because that's a big thing for me, is to not re-traumatize during therapy, which unfortunately happens sometimes. You were talking about it, certain words, certain triggers just um, dysregulates you. And I want to keep the person always regulated and be able to bring the therapy to those that can't come to me, you know. And that's a dream of mine, is having a Google Expression by Lee studio, right?
I really love that idea. So you can't get there without the right marketing. So how do you envision expanding your impact and reaching more people?
Well, that's a big question that I would have to hire you for.
Yay! Well, we can work on that. Now, is there anything else before we end here? Anything else you'd like to share with our listeners today? Any upcoming events? Any special projects that are coming up other than your looking for volunteers for the VR art therapy program? Is there anything else that you want to share with us?
Well, I'm going to be speaking about virtual reality and in art therapy at the American Art Therapy Association virtual conference on October 26th. And I am participating in a book that is going to be called The Embodied Art Therapist. And I'm going to be in part of a chapter that talks about virtual art therapy, where I talk about virtual reality in that book. So I'm very excited with a lot of the projects that are going on, and I'm participating in a webinar talking about how you work with neurodivergent children, using art therapy, using art making processes. And so there's always something going on, right? And as long as I'm busy and my brain is working, I'm happy.
That's awesome. So, what's the best way for people to contact you or learn more about your work?
Through expressionbylee.com and also in LinkedIn, Healed Healer.
Awesome. So I'm going to gather up all your links and put them in the description below so people can easily click and find you. And I really hope that this will get you some volunteers. And I'd like to follow up with you and find out your progress on this research project. Sounds really cool.
I'll be happy to share that with you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing this information with me today, and I'm going to do my best to get this information into as many people's hands as possible because I think this is just a phenomenal opportunity for people to have therapy in a different way and maybe break down those walls that are keeping people away from therapy. So I appreciate your value, I appreciate your knowledge, and I most appreciate your time for being here today. And I want to mention this is my exciting announcement. I promised everybody at the end of the video, I will be 50 on the 5th this weekend. So it's weird saying that I'm going to be 50, but I am so grateful to be here and celebrating another year on this planet. I wanted to celebrate with my listeners here on YouTube. So I will be doing my first live on YouTube on my birthday. I'll be circulating some posts to remind you to join me at the 5 o'clock Eastern on the 5th for my 50th birthday. And let's have some fun. Join me in celebrating, and I can't wait to see you there. And until then, I hope you have an inspired week and peace and love, everybody. Thank you so much. Lidice, you have been fabulous today.
Oh, thank you.
And for you, all you lovely viewers out there, thank you so much for tuning in here on Beth Talks. Meet me back here. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. So you also hit that little notification button so you'll be notified when I upload another new video on Beth Talks. Hey, thanks for tuning in this time. And I hope that you found today's episode was really helpful in some way. And I appreciate your time that you took to spend here with me on this podcast. And don't forget to tune in October 5th, 5 o'clock Eastern for my birthday. Let's celebrate together. And until next time, stay strong, stay resilient, and peace and love, everybody.